Hi, I'm Nick Barrow, critic for Nova Stream Network.
And I'm Georja Malt, founder of With G Digital and lover of literature.
And welcome to The Book Was Better, a monthly podcast with myself and Georgia where we read a popular novel, watch the film that the book was adapted into, and discuss the age-old debate of what was better, the book or the film. Welcome back, 2024. Welcome back, Georgia.
Thank you.
How exciting to be, another year of reading ahead of us, another year of movie watching ahead of us. I think by the end of this year, I would probably have read more books in a 24-month period than I have in an almost 30-year lifetime. So I'm basically a scholar as far as I'm aware. But
pretty close.
I hope you had a good Christmas and New Year's, mate.
I did. I had wonderful. How about you? You feeling rejuvenated?
I would say yes, but I worked a lot on various podcasts. I read books. And I watched movies.
You never stop grinding, do you, mate?
It's the hustle, it's the grind, it's the, who else is going to discuss books in such a, studious way that I do? That's the only way I can go.
Have you had a chance to read that book I got you for Christmas yet?
Oh, the wonderful How to Read book? No, I'm still on the first page.
That's a shame.
I'm figuring out how to read. But if you missed that episode, go back and watch our very hilarious Christmas Carol episode, in which Georgia and I did a nice little gift exchange. And we obviously know each other so well. That's what I took away from that. That's what I took away from that. But kicking off the new year and kicking off January was my pick for this month. And I went with Call Me By Your Name, which is by Andre Aciman. And I picked it because I actually just wanted an excuse to watch the film again.
Yeah.
I've only seen the movie once before when it came out in cinemas. And I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I thought it was incredible. But I feel like it's definitely one of those movies that you can't just throw on, I think.
Yeah.
As easy as it is to watch, it's very emotionally complex. So I was like, I think I was always looking for a reason to watch it again. But it is a romantic novel. It's a romantic drama of a film about a young Elio who is he's in Italy for the summer. His father is a professor, an archaeological professor, I believe, who lives there with his wife and obviously his son Elio in the beautiful countryside of Italy. Beautifully described in the book, beautiful looking in the film, I'll say.
Yeah, it's actually different. That's our first point of difference. It's actually the locations are a bit different. That is true. We'll get more into that. We'll break
into it. But the romance sort of blossoms when Oliver, who is a professor's assistant, comes to stay at the house during the summer and strikes up a friendship that blossoms into a little bit more for him and Elio. So do you have a bit of info about the book? And firstly, this is the first time reading the book?
Yeah, first time reading the book.
Obviously not first time watching the movie.
No, I love the movie.
Big
time fan of the movie. So it came out in 2007.
Right.
I wouldn't say it has some of the numbers that other books we've done on this podcast have because it is a little bit more niche. I'd say this is the first kind of really modern alternative literature that we've done.
Right.
Besides being Perks of a Wallflower, but that's more young adult, I would say.
Yep.
Like this is kind of really a new bracket for us to be
exploring,
it's a good
point, actually. This is probably one of the more mature novels we've read. Yeah, totally.
And not so mainstream. So
that too, actually.
So I don't have like Harry Potter where there's like 100 billion copies were sold or whatever. But, it was published. I will say is it was published in 2007 and it is I'd say definitely the most critically acclaimed book that we've read in the literary circle.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's
I didn't know that.
The reviews are like, it was beloved by critics.
Based on a first read, do you sort of agree with the not breaking down much about it, but do you agree with the critics? You were like, okay, this is a really well-written book?
I would say it's definitely my type of book.
Okay.
But
interesting.
But I wouldn't say everyone would agree with that.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm guessing maybe you did not?
No, I'll tell you what. I did really enjoy reading it, but I'm learning more and more as we do this show about how much of a physical, like visual medium person I am as well. Because as emotional as the book does get, I found myself far more emotionally connected to the film.
Yeah.
That's perhaps because I already had watched it. I knew what I was expecting. I knew how great the performances were. But reading the book, I was like, oh, no, I get it. This is, a man reminiscing basically on his long lost love that he never really got, right?
Yeah.
So I think had I had read it before watching the film could be a different story.
Yeah.
But I think knowing what happened and sort of being like, okay, let's have the most horny retelling of this story possible.
Well, I would say we've sort of touched on some of the key differences right there in those few sentences you spoke. So one of them is obviously when we start off in the novel, Elio is saying all this as a reflective piece, and he's saying, I wonder when it all started. Did it start the day he got out of the car? Did it start?
I'll tell you what, I did really enjoy this. It's sort of like that first 15 pages of the book is very much so him, like you said, him trying to figure out where he thinks the spark started. Yeah. And in the film, that's played just very sort of structurally. It's just sort of like Oliver arrives and there's all these interactions he has with Oliver. But I did really enjoy in the book how he's sort of like really explaining how he felt in those moments. Yeah. And he's, especially being a 17-year-old teenager, in a very emotionally, romantically, sexually charged sort of way. And I was like, I really got that in the first 15 pages, I guess.
I think the way that I see the characters, especially maybe not so much Oliver, but Elio is very different in the book and the film for me.
Interesting.
Not more just because in this book, it is so sexual.
Oh God, yeah.
And
it's
some people would say, but Georgia, so is the movie. And I'm like, no. Compared to the book, it's G.
I'll tell you what, that's funny you mention that because in regards to the film itself, so it's written by James Ivory, who at 89 was the oldest Oscar winner ever for adapted screenplay for this.
Wow. There you go.
And he'd been writing and directing he had a long, illustrious career, but this is what finally won him his Oscar. And it's directed by Luca Guadagnino, who did the Suspiria remake. He's got a new movie coming out this year, Challenges, with Zendaya and Mike Face. And it's a sexually charged love triangle of tennis players. So, and Luca Guadagnino is really good at that. He's really good at sensuality, sexuality, but it's quite funny you mentioned that. He wanted to tone down the sexuality in the book. He didn't want gratuitous sex scenes. He didn't want gratuitous nudity.
And that actually did open up some criticism, I read, because people were like, well, that's just kind of, you've taken a book that's very overt with its gay sexual themes, and then you've chosen to tone it down, which kind of makes this idea that gay cinema isn't popular or isn't profitable. Yeah. And that did have he did have a bit of backlash.
What did you think? What's your take on it?
Personally, the book gives me a bit more.
By the way, neither of us are gay men. I guess we should point that out
sorry,
right
I'm
now,
not commenting for the community. This is just comments that I've read.
Yeah, totally.
So as a straight female, this is my perspective on it. The book was a bit more Saltburn for me.
Oh, good comparison.
I mean, I don't know if anyone knows that, but just hearing Elio's internal thoughts about Oliver. Yeah. He's so obsessively sexual about him.
Big time.
He's like the way, he's like his foot, the bottom of his foot. I just want to touch his foot. And you're like, whoa.
Even in a comparative sense to the film, the shoulder touch at the volleyball game, right?
Yeah.
The shoulder touch at the volleyball game in the movie, I was like, sure. I get what they're trying to do here. In the book, he's basically borderline coming from getting a shoulder rub. And I was and that's the whole book. And that's, to me, makes sense. Because I remember what it was like to be a 17-year-old boy and everything's sexually charged. But it's very well written. I will say that. This isn't like your $10 pulp novel
I think that's
romance.
It's not general fiction. It's something, it's more, I don't want to say it's artistic, but it's more that literature. Literature's its own category.
It's like the difference between watching an art house sex scene and pornography. Yeah. That's the difference between those two books, is that there's actually there's a lot more emotion behind it. I feel like it's it's emotionally sexual.
It was a bit emotional for you, Nick.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I've never fucked a peach, but this movie made me understand how that would feel.
Yeah.
But I think it was a massive conversation between Luca Guadagnino and James Ivory. James Ivory wanted to keep, for that exact same reason the criticism came about, wanted to keep a lot of the nudity, wanted to keep a lot of the sex, because James Ivory himself is a gay man as well. Yeah. So it was interesting, those conversations. And I think, having read the book, now watched the film again, they do feel like two different perspectives of two different sides of Elio almost. There's one that is, the movie is a lot more romantic, I would say. That's what I was
going to say. I don't really believe so much that they're...
It's
in
like
love in the book. I guess maybe they are, but it feels like more romantic and more of a love story in the film.
Yes.
And part of it, I think, I don't think it needed the sex scenes because
it's telling a different side of it,
Well,
right?
it's more like that a lot of the story is about longing and the unknown, and it's that tension. And like if you've ever been in, I don't know if you've ever been in a situation like this. I know you and Rhiannon have been together for like a million years, but just when you first met, it's like those moments where you're like, do they like me? What do they think of me? And you're falling so...
I think you can compare it into friendships as well, like friendships that have come and gone, right? Like, you're so passionate about just a friendship that goes away. And like, I think because it's at such a time in Elio's life where he has friends that he sees over the summer. And one of them, is a girl he does have some sort of interest in. Definitely she has a lot more interest in him. Marzia, I believe it is. Yeah. And we do get to see that Elio has these friends, but he's never had a connection like this with anyone like he's had with Oliver. Yeah. And obviously later, very much later in the book and the film, we get to hear how his dad tells him how lucky he was to have that, which is, we'll talk about later, but maybe one of the best fucking movie scenes of all time. It's interesting to see the perspective of, how emotionally charged 17-year-olds are, like especially during that age, like you're going through puberty, you're trying to regulate your feelings and your emotions, like everything probably feels so heightened.
I think that's what I was trying to say. It's like when you have a crush at school and
it's the ultimate ecstasy, right?
It is, but it's like it's so painful but so like good at the same time.
Yes,
and
totally,
it's just that like the book, reading it, I would say I felt it more in the book
because
than even in the movie. You just feel that like anguish Elio's in.
Totally,
and it makes that line, is it better to speak or die, so much. Like it gave me chills in the book because you're just feeling how on fire Elio is for something to happen.
Which I also love that line in the film, but I would agree with you. I think it almost has different meaning in the film.
It's just so much more, all the feelings that you think are so...
It's so much more about love than it is about not even just sex, but just lust. Almost, right?
It's just it's just, and it, like you said, it's also like, I think the movie makes out that he... I mean, I think he does love Oliver, obviously, primarily, but in the book, he's a little bit more sexually fluid. Like, he even talks about parts like where he compares Marzia and
Oliver's, the experience he's had with them,
and it's just very interesting because it's not that he doesn't enjoy his sexual experiences with Marzia, but he just doesn't have that like obsession for her that he does for Oliver. But even in the famous peach scene, he talks about it looking, like both parts, male and female, and it's just very interesting because I just feel like you get that sexual obsession
in the book
that he's in. And also the part in the book that I thought was done well was when after he has the experience with Oliver and they sleep together,
the first
and he completely shuts down and because he is like, can't believe what he's done. And we have to also remember that it's the 80s, so it's not the time we're in now where it's like much more widely accepted.
Not widely accepted, and then also you think about there's a 7-year age gap between them. One is 17 years old and then Oliver's 24. So there's so much going on. Something that obviously Elio is thinking about less. Something that's not as and it makes sense because it's all told from Elio's point of view that we don't really get to hear Oliver's take on it as much, but it's definitely something that as a reader you're subconsciously is maybe thinking about as well, totally throughout the whole experience. So before we move on, I'll quickly throw out some movie info as well because it's interesting that we're talking about the comparison because Andre Aciman himself, when he read James Ivory's script, he said that this was almost better than the book. Yeah. He said he was read the script and he was like, it's crazy how someone has made my book even better. And I was like, wow, that's high praise from the author.
That's
And I mean, like we said, Oscar-winning adapted screenplay as well. So James Ivory actually had to fight. We'll briefly talk about it. There's a fantastic speech at the end from Elio's dad, who's Mr. Perlman, I guess.
Yeah.
Who's played in the film by Michael Stuhlbarg, who I love Michael Stuhlbarg. He pops up in all these little roles. He's such a character actor. I think this is his best performance ever. But that speech at the end he gives about how he once had that as well. He had something that was similar to what Elio and Oliver had, somewhat insinuating that he was also in love with a man that his mum and his wife doesn't know, and that he was so lucky to have that, and that he should cherish the experience that he had because it probably won't come around again, which is heavy to hear at 17. Like you said, that pain and that anguish you feel, even though it's addictive, that's the reality of it as well. So it's a fantastic scene. Screenwriter James Ivory had to fight to keep that scene in the film.
Oh, really?
In the screenplay. How ridiculous is that? It's arguably the best scene.
And arguably one of the like the book is really famous for that part as well.
Right? But I don't know what though. I think because as well how they structured the ending, because the ending of the book
is very different. That's probably the biggest difference.
It's massive difference. And it's not necessarily different in where the story ends up going, but just how it's condensed. It's because it's 20 years condensed, I guess you could say, which I thought was very interesting. Unknown what the role was, but Shia LaBeouf was centered around a role in the film when they were going to make it in about 2015. I don't know who though.
Would he have been Oliver?
He might have been Oliver because he was a bit more gruff looking. He doesn't strike me as an Elio.
Vibes. And I'm glad he didn't get it because I think that not an Armie Hammer fan now.
Not
and
now,
I've never I wouldn't say I ever really was.
I would say because he had The Social Network, which he played the Winklevoss twins. I think he was a great actor, but yeah, obviously.
I didn't like him because of Gossip Girl. If you've ever seen that, I hate his character.
I forgot he was in Gossip Girl.
I hate his character. Fair enough. Just turned me against him.
And you know what? And then he didn't help himself in real life either.
He betrayed Serena van der Woodsen and then he became a cannibal.
So there we go. It was easy to rip that Band-Aid. But yeah, I'm assuming
he's great in the film.
Must have been that. So it won 1 Oscar, 4 nominations. It's got 94% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
$43 million box office on a $3.5 million budget. So made 10 times its budget.
Yeah.
But this was an Oscar, darling. Like I remember everyone talking about it. It premiered at Sundance in January 2017. And then didn't actually get a theatrical release in America till November. So there was a whole year building up. I saw it at the New Farm Queer Film Festival in a sold-out crowd, and obviously everyone was in fucking tears by the end of it as well. So there was a lot of buzz around this film, which I loved when I saw, and I was looking for an excuse to watch again. So, but I think I feel like you've really hit the nail on the head. Is that the book is about lust, the movie's about love,
and I think a lot of people will listen to this and disagree with me, and that's totally fine because I can only speak to my own feelings and what I picked up from it. But I
would agree, like, because I was reading it, I was like, this is a horny fucking book,
and I
didn't find the movie that horny. I guess you could say, right?
And I just felt like there's also a character in the book, I'll bring it back to this, called Vimini, I believe her name is, who is a young girl with leukemia who lives in the neighbouring house and strikes up a friendship with Oliver.
With Oliver, yeah.
And it's actually her who says a line that the mum takes over in the film, and that Oliver said to her, I think I like Elio, much more than he likes me.
Yes. Yeah.
Essentially. And the mum says that.
Yeah.
And I don't really fully know whether that's true because in the movie I would say it's very equal.
Yeah.
But in the book, Elio's just so sexual.
and even it's when in your face. Like he's not hiding it. Yeah.
Oliver says he's getting married.
Yes.
Like in the book, Elio's reaction is like not as distressed, I guess.
It's interesting like how quickly it feels like he let it go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But whereas that scene in the movie, how it ends with the cry.
So this is interesting because like leading up to that point, I guess both book and film are very, very similar in the sense of we see Elio and Oliver's relationship developing over the course of this summer, but like it's long walks and they go swimming a lot together. So I think swimming is a perfect sort of situation to put these both in because It's in hot Italy. They're both getting their bodies all soaking wet. They're in these short shorts, which allegedly they had to digitally remove Armie Hammer's testicles that kept popping out of the bottom of the shorts.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
my gosh.
That's a rumor. That's a rumor, but it could be real.
Talking about the board shorts, something I love in the book is like Elio, it's such a good way to describe how much he observes Oliver. Yes, so he has this theory about the board shorts where what color he wears is what his emotions are that day. So like red is stern and angry, and like green and then later in the book he goes, so my board short theory has been disproved because he was wearing green and he wasn't in a good mood at all or whatever. And like, you know, I just love that sort of commentary that we don't get in the film, like being in Elio's head, because he's really funny.
He's super funny, and it's like you said, it's an absolute unadulterated insight into what he's thinking. Like it's almost like we're reading every single one of Elio's thoughts as they pop out. Unfiltered, but also like his thoughts are very well put together and very well written.
Like, he's definitely very smart.
I mean, he's doesn't fall. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Where you see how smart his dad is, how smart his mum is, and sort of the people that they, you know, the dinners they have with, you know, highfalutin people.
And I think like the book sort of it does it so well in a way that you know he's living this like very bilingual existence, and I think they do that so well in the movie. Like they get to the essential essence of Elio's family and his life is like reflected so well.
But I think I would say that's less of the screenplay, and I think that's more those performances.
Yeah. And the cinematography has a huge, because like you were saying in the shorts and
beautiful is
like reading this book, it's all just about this like languid Italian summer of eating fruit from the orchard and swimming and just like
drinking, you know, stopping at houses for water, like sparkling water, and you can like every time he was talking about when they stopped to drink the sparkling water, if they're like riding in town, I could feel it. Like it's summer here in Brisbane, right? Like, so I was like, oh my God, like I could really just feel a lot of that. Maybe it was like the 4D experience of reading the book, but it's so like Andre Aciman is a brilliant writer.
Yeah, he really is. And
brilliant writer.
Well, something about his writing for me is like he takes such ordinary, mundane things and just like twists these sentences that are so beautiful and profound. I actually have one here
I would say it's so intimate yet so subtle. But it's perfect.
And it's not cliche.
No, it's not.
This is the thing, because like so many things they try to be artistic and like do these really like you know, pretentious sounding things, but nothing
that
felt
you fucking
inorganic.
put on a bumper sticker, right?
It just was. It didn't feel like a Woody Allen film where you're like trying to be smart for the point of it. So this is like from when they've had their first kiss finally, and then pretty much Oliver is avoiding Elio because he's, I don't know, not wanting to give in to this or whatever. He's just not sure what's going on. None of us are.
He's being cool, Oliver.
And this is where so Elio is waiting for Oliver to show up at dinner, hoping that he'll be at dinner.
He'll be there,
And then eventually it sort of dawns on him like he's not going to show
probably
up.
Not coming.
And just I felt that disappointment like a knife to my chest. And it says, I watched his silverware, his placemat, his napkin, his entire being disappear. It presaged exactly what would happen less than a month from now.
Oh, God, yeah.
And I'm just like, everything he comments on is like so beautifully written about.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that aspect of the book. Like the writing was really good.
And everything leading up to the final, because it's basically told in somewhat 3 parts, I guess you could say. Everything in the book and the film leading up to these final moments is just beautiful. Like, and you mentioned the cinematography. It is one of the most beautiful looking films.
It'd have to be, if someone said to me, what film do you think has the best cinematography?
Like
I'd probably say that. I don't think that I love the weird moments that they do, which are a bit experimental for me.
Okay, so when Elio's having his sort of looking back and it's in like night vision. Demons.
Guys, we've had an incident on set. I've knocked over the DVD.
Technical difficulties.
Stand by.
It's like not. It's almost like heat vision or something. It's sort of told in.
And the weird fuzzy bit when he's sitting on the stairs.
Oh,
and
that's like, right. Yeah.
I just personally didn't really see
clicking.
the point of
that's
it.
That's Luca Guadagnino for you, though.
But
that's
besides that small criticism, beautifully shot film.
Oh, amazing! And it just captures Italy as a character itself. in the film, and
sorry, just reminds me of that episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine where they're talking about Sex in the City, and
my God,
to distract that guard, and they're like, and New York, the fifth character.
New York is the fifth character. It's Sex in the City.
Yeah.
It's just so well done, and I think both things get how, like, as a reader and as a film watcher, I'm drawn in. It's just the growth of the attraction between them, because you are so pulled into this relationship, and just as it grows, you're like, oh, I need it to go to the next level. I need it to go to the next level. The sexual frustrations of a 17-year-old who lets out his sexual frustration by fucking a peach.
Yeah.
Which this is one of my favorite bits of trivia. So both Luca Guadagnino and Timothée Chalamet were both like, that's impossible. Like, you can't fuck a peach. But they were both like, but I mean, should we test it? So they both, it's written as independently, and they tested to see if it worked, and both came back and were like, oh yeah, no, we can put the scene in.
Oh my gosh.
So it's rumored that Timothée Chalamet has had sex with a peach. You heard it here first.
There
On the book was better. That's our
God.
exclusive.
You know, it's, in that scene in the book, he's actually the one who says that part of like, first I started with the animal kingdom and now I've moved on to the plant kingdom. What's next? The mineral. Whereas Armie Hammer takes that line in the movie.
Oh, he does too. That's right.
But
he
Elio
says it because he's joking
himself,
about it. Yeah.
But he's like, and this part where he's doing it, he's like, this poor little peach doesn't even know what's going on to it stuff. It's just
was literally coming. So, and I just think, I remember the reaction of the crowd in the cinema when when Oliver eats the peach as well. And everyone's like, whoa, like, we can put that in movies now. It's like, well, yeah, we can.
That's probably another difference in the book to movie of that scene, is that like when Oliver does that, Elio looks very physically distressed by the fact that he's doing it. Yeah. Whereas in the book, he cries because no one's ever been so kind to him. Yeah.
No one's ever swallowed his cum, I guess,
out of a peach.
To be honest.
But I think it's because he's feeling disgusting and he's feeling like he's deplorable for doing this. And then Armie Hammer's just like, nah, babe, I'm into it.
I love that in Call Me By Your Name, post-nut clarity is a thing. I'm very, I'm thankful that's very accurately represented in film, finally. Finally.
Something you've struggled with your whole life.
You know what? I've never felt so represented on screen before with post-nut clarity. And it's that love and desire that just keeps building up. And they finally get to go away together for a couple of days. In which is, again, in the book, steamy as fuck. Like, they do a lot. They have a lot of sex. And it definitely get that in the movie. But the one thing I love that the movie did, as sort of this emotionally starts to like go down from its climax, and I don't remember reading in the book, is when Elio, after the days they've had together, Oliver sort of just goes, like doesn't really, there's no like goodbye really for them. He calls his mum and asks her to come pick him up from the train station. And that was heartbreaking in the film. Like, that was such a good addition. In the book, it's
the gardener, isn't it?
That's
Gets
right.
him from the station.
But the mum picking him up.
That was a good addition.
And both, I think it's a scene earlier in the film where they both kind of allude to Elio that they know something's happening with, and they're happy for him to explore that. The dad just outright asks him at one point if he's had sex with Marcia yet. Yeah. So they're obviously a very open, liberal family about those things. But
I feel like the connection in the film between the family feels stronger, because in the book, Elio makes a lot of observations that he's the baby, he's the youngest, his ideas are never really listened to. Yeah. Whereas in the movie, I don't get that idea. Like, I get the idea that the parents are
very close, like connected and sort of emotionally mature with, because they obviously know he's an intelligent kid, but like they're very the emotional intelligence with the family.
Feel a bit closer. And I think something else the movie does that I really like is that famous line we were talking about before, "to speak or die," is from a 15th century French book of literature.
Right.
And in the book, Elio's reading that alone in the study, whereas in the movie, it's like a rainy day and the mum is translating it and reading it aloud to the family.
Yeah.
And I love that scene.
Yeah,
it just
it's
feels
such a nice scene.
Beautiful that he has this relationship with his parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something I think the movie did so well in so many ways.
I mean, I feel like, and obviously the best way it does it is the best scene in the best part of both the book and the film is the dad's speech, like we alluded to earlier. And it's just, I love in the film how it is just a shot that just sort of holds on them on the couch and just slowly starts pushing in. And the biggest thing I took away from this, and I don't know if I totally got it in the book, and I know that this has been met with some criticism by people, especially in regards to the age gap thing and Elio being 17, is when before Elio's dad starts talking about how he did have something like this in the past, Elio sort of falls into his lap. Much like a child would, you know what I mean? And it's not excuse, like you can do that as an adult. If you want to go home and cry into your parents' lap, you know, you can do that at any age. But seeing him sort of regress a little bit further back because he emotionally doesn't know what to do with this situation because he is ultimately a kid. He's a teenager.
He's so vulnerable.
He's so vulnerable in that moment. And it's such a heartbreaking scene. And the way the camera just sort of holds onto it, the way Chalamet acts in that scene is just, he's perfect in this
if we're
film.
going to start talking about casting,
Please,
they
let's
just
do, 'cause that scene is just beautiful.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Every
single
and
person.
Timothee brought so much of that like character, because like you love Elio in the
God,
book.
yeah.
Like he's like a lovable kid
absolutely.
because he's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
smart and funny and like you just have a soft spot
It's
for
the
him.
same way we felt about Perks Being a Wallflower. You know what I mean? Like it's that
with Charlie,
same with Charlie. It's such a emotionally intelligent person that like the wits, because of how funny they are, really comes through because of how smart they are. Sorry,
I loved him, and I think Timothee really expanded. I've read a lot of people say that the books, the movie and the book just complement each other.
Yeah, okay,
and like
I get that.
expand on different things in each, and I like sort of see that. And
I see that. Yeah,
I think the characters are what does that. Like Timothy's little, I don't know whether it's just things he did or that he was
Like the
directed to
physicality
do,
of
the
the performance,
physicality,
yeah.
like when he he does his little sort of scrapes on the gravel, like his little
God, that's right.
just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the way he moves, he just seems like this carefree 17-year-old
the dance
kid.
when they're at the dance, you know, and he's got the cigarette in his mouth. He's watching Oliver dance with someone else. So then when he gets up with Marcia, he almost has to force himself to let go a little bit, and that dance scene is great as well.
He's such a good dancer, and this is when I fell in love with him when I watched this film, like 100%.
Yeah.
Like it was just, this for me was just like my Timothee Chalamet era.
I mean, it hasn't stopped. That's the question.
Yeah.
It continues.
No, but I feel like he looks a bit. Watching this movie, I was like,
looks young.
has he had work done or something? Not that he still looks really good, but he looks very different.
Maybe
in
he
this.
just grew up.
Yeah, he probably
he's
did.
Like as much
I think
as
he's
a
even
kid,
more drawn in the face now.
as
like
much
he's
as
sort
a
of a bit
kid,
more.
his size can. He's bulked up a little bit more
Yeah.
now. He's a June superstar and stuff. So,
but like gaunter in the face, like maybe he had
Interesting.
more baby fat or something. I don't know.
perhaps, yeah.
I just like
we need a side. We'll do a side by side comparison. Yeah,
we'll have a look.
But he's so fucking good in this film. Like this for me is the one part of me that really put him on the map. I'm trying to remember what I'd seen him in beforehand.
This was my first thing for him for sure.
I feel like I knew of Timothée Chalamet before this, but then this was obviously for a lot of people because he speaking about Oscar nominations earlier, he is the youngest actor to ever be nominated for Best Actor.
Oh wow!
In a film for this role. So
there you go.
I mean, good for him. Bully to him for that.
Yeah.
But I guess that brings us to where the movie and the book are so inherently different. And that's in the final moments of the book, when I say final moments, like the final 60 pages, is different segments where after Elio and Oliver have their final rendezvous together, I guess, we find out in two completely different ways that Oliver gets married, has 2 kids, and then that's where the movie sort of ends, but the book then goes on a little bit further and we find out that Elio's dad passes away. And Oliver does come back to the house 20 years later and sees Elio and they show him where they put the dad's ashes and they kind of do their back and forth about, you know, if you call me by your name, will you call me by my name? I'll call you by mine or whatever they say. I can't remember. There's a lot of I was a bit confused there. I was like, who's calling who what? But I think for me, it's so tough because that movie ending is so impactful.
Yeah.
Because not only, I think it's so much more heartbreaking. In the book, Oliver tells Elio in person that he's getting married. It happens over the phone.
I think the ending of the movie is way better.
It's perfect in my eyes.
It's just so much more heartbreaking. But that's also because Elio's so much more heartbroken. In the book, he's like, that's splendid. Getting married is a wonderful thing. Yeah, it's really weird.
And it's interesting seeing the parents' reaction to it in the movie as well, because that's them. But it's funny when they're saying that because like they're obviously happy for Oliver because they got along with Oliver so well.
Yeah, they really liked him.
But it's so because I feel like the dad also knows like that's gonna break my son's heart.
You can see on their faces they're like, oh,
they're kind of like that's poor Elio in this situation. And in the film, the final shot of the film, which is the ending credits, the closing credits, is Timothee Chalamet just sitting there and crying into the fireplace.
Is it a video?
Yeah, what a great song written for the film.
For ages after Ree and I saw this, like if it was like depressing anything, we were like, is it a video?
I mean, it's a rightfully depressing song for a depressing scene, but that just again, it's Luca Guadagnino's ability to just hold the camera on something and just let things happen. So heartbreaking. But then, I didn't feel as heartbroken. And maybe that's just because we're looking for the sadness, Georgia. Maybe that's why we love it.
I also think we end off fresh in the movie of like the fresh heartbreak and the acceptance that they'll never have this life together. Whereas in the book, they sort of like talk about this parallel life. They could have been together, but that's not what happened. And they've lived through the pain. Like life has moved on.
Yeah. Because there's two moments. There's like a 9 or 10 years later, then a 20 years later as well, right?
He actually, he flies back that December for Christmas, tells him he's getting married, and then it's the parents go to visit him, and Elio's on the phone, and he can hear the two kids.
Them in the background. And then the 20 years later is Oliver comes back to the house, and they see each other at the house there, which to me I thought was a nice scene. I thought them walking to where they were spreading Elio's dad's ashes and when they were kind of... It was almost like Elio's test to be like, does he even remember what happened?
Yeah.
And he does. And I think that almost was enough for, because 20 years later, Elio would have been 37. That's like almost enough for him at that age. You know what I mean? Like, I get why.
There's that sort of like big theme in the end, which is like, they say it on the phone in the film, but it's like that I remember everything.
Yes.
Even 20 years later. Like I remember every moment
detail
with you of like so
and we know Elio knows because he wrote a whole book about it. We got a whole book of his conscience about it, but I think they're two different emotions that I felt. There's one that I did like better, but I also can't not fault the other one too much, but I just and I get
you liked the movie,
of course it is.
Did you know what? I have to pick the movie too.
Yes.
I almost want to tie.
Fuck yes.
I almost want to tie, but the second half of the book just didn't keep me as much. But, and this is the thing that I hate about it, is because out of the books we have read on this show, this is one of the best written books in terms of like every line is a quote. Every line could be tattooed on some girl's arm. Everything is so beautifully written, like next to some birds flying.
That's it.
Like it's all so poetic and beautiful.
Just get the book tattooed on your back and you'll be sorted for life. But the
changes they made in the film, I think, only served the story.
Adapted so well.
I kind of liked it being more romantic than so hypersexual.
That's what my sort of caveat would be. Like, if you are looking at what you want to access first, if you want to read the book or read the film, I would say you're going to walk away with two different emotions. It's the same story, but like I said, one is about love, the film, one is about lust, the book. And
some people would totally disagree with us. They'd be like, they're so in love in the book. But I'm glad you're on the same page as me.
I got that early on. Early on, I was like, this is a 17-year-old boy who likes to fuck.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And you know what? It's told so beautifully.
Yeah.
Never have I read the inner thoughts of a horny 17-year-old put so eloquently onto the page. I hope I don't have to read too much of that.
It's just like he's like his elbow, his literally. I just want to lick his
it's the
shin.
shoulder scene. Like, it's the shoulder scene in the movie. It's just it's about touch, and it's Elio being like, oh, okay, is there something here? In the book, he's like, fuck me, like as soon as the shoulders touch. Like that's exactly what it's like. So, but again, so well written. But then I think under the direction of anyone else, under of any other screenwriter, I feel like we would have got a way more direct adaptation. I'm glad Luca Guadagnino fought for his vision of the film, and it paid off so well. Because I think he's a fantastic director. I think you probably won't like this one as much, but he also did a recent adaptation for a movie, Bones and All, which also stars
the cannibal
Chalamet,
one.
A cannibal love story. If anyone was going to pull it off, though,
it'd be him. Was it good? Did you like it?
I enjoyed it. I didn't love it. I thought, similar to like my one major criticism about the film, this feels long.
It's
slow like 2 hours 15
moving.
and it feels like it. I think Bones and All is similar, is like 2 hours 10 and you can feel that runtime. But different love stories, I guess you could say. One involves eating people and this one involves eating cum peaches. Very different, very, very different. But look, the movie is fantastic. Like it's...
But I just want to clarify for everyone listening / watching
that Georgia only liked the movie. End of episode.
I've got the mic. How do I turn your mic off? I'm like, where's the off button? Out of the books we've read that I've chosen books, this is better than some of those.
It's crazy good. Like it's really good.
Well written, and I don't want to
underplay
how beautiful the book is.
It is.
Like if you want to read it, you absolutely should read it.
And I listened to part of the audiobook too, and even the audiobook I was like, I felt like I was getting whisked away back in Italy. I was like, this is it's so lovely.
It's so beautiful.
I agree.
Just that I think like you said, if one thing had changed, if it was a different cinematographer, different screenplay, if they hadn't cast it the way they had, like if one of those things had fallen, I probably would have picked the book. It'd be a different story,
right? Yeah.
But it's just they got every element essentially of the movie right for me, and I just can't go past it.
I love it.
You would.
Well, that's a fantastic start to 2024, Georja Malt. I'm very happy about that. But that was Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman, directed by Luca Guadagnino. Loved it. I can't, and almost like I feel like I don't need an excuse to watch it again. Like I could just throw this on now, and it's one of those ones that any scene you put on, like
even if you just want to pretend that you could live that life of just languorously eating peaches in like an Italian vineyard or whatever you want to do with the peach. Up to you.
Hey, what? This book's opened up a lot of peach possibilities. So you can do what you want and then go to the Mineral Kingdom next.
Yeah. Ouch.
But that's it for this story here. Moving forward, Georja Malt. Do you have a book for February?
I do.
2024.
Oh, I should have picked something more romantic.
No, I'm happy.
Are we doing a Valentine's Day special?
I might have an idea for a Valentine's Day special, so you pick what you want to pick,
okay,
mate.
all right.
We've started Valentine's Day.
I just forgot
already.
that it was Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about it. So, you pick yours. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do both.
I've never read the book and I've never seen the film. I want to do The Talented Mr. Ripley.
Okay. I'm very intrigued by that. Is there a certain movie you've watched recently that's inspired that potentially, or
is there?
Oh, there would be. I will tell you off mic.
That's really annoying.
I'll say it. If you liked Saltburn,
okay,
you'll like elements of Talented Mr. Ripley.
I've never really seen.
Have you not seen Saltburn? You've seen Saltburn,
I've seen Saltburn,
right?
but I didn't really even.
You won't,
I only roughly knew the concept of Talented Mr. Ripley.
It's not. They're different in their own right, but there's elements. Like if you like,
actually, I do think someone mentioned that. I think you're right. I think that did put it in my head.
I have seen the film, but I have not read the book. We'll talk about more on the episode. Just because this random fact came into my head, I'll call him a friend, Mr. Greg Sestero, star of The Room. This is his favorite. My friend, who I've spoken to a couple of times in real life. He may not know me, but we're friends.
Hey, Greg, if you're watching, your mate's podcast, how you going?
The Talented Mr. Ripley is his favorite film.
Really?
Yeah, he talks about it in his book, The Disaster Artist.
I don't know what that is.
No,
meant to mean.
Whether that's a gauge of quality, who knows? We'll find out in February.
As long as it's not Tommy Wiseau's, because then it would be a real issue.
You're sitting Talented Mr. Ripley, most graceful of all time. Anyway, if you get a chance to before February, give a read of Talented Mr. Ripley, give a watch of Talented Mr. Ripley, and while you're also doing that, subscribe, do all the things. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. If you're listening, Amazon, Google, Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio. We love you all very much. But thank you all for returning in 2024. We're super excited to bring you another year of fantastic books and films. And until next time, we'll see you on The Book Was Better.
Bye. Thank you.